everyone, and welcome back to Read Aloud with me. I'm glad to see you. Today is Monday, May 11th. I hope you had a great weekend. I will share one thing with you this morning. I was on my run and I did fall and twisted my ankle pretty bad to the point where I can't stand on it. It's in a lot of pain. I'm not sure if it's broken or sprained. So today after class, I am going to head down to the emergency room, last place I want to be, and just make sure if it is broken that I do get a cast. All right, but I am dedicated and I am here to read with you It Ain't So Awful Falafel by Feroze Dumas. And we left off on chapter called George. Friday after school, I find a note slipped in my locker from Carolyn. Do you want to come to my house on Saturday at noon? We can swim and have lunch. Call me. Below, that is her number. When I get home, my mom is watching the Phil Donahue show, which means her mood could go either way. Depending on the show's topic, I can't risk asking her and getting a no. I decide to wait and ask my dad. As soon as I hear the garage door open, I rush to meet him. Baba, can I please go to a friend's house tomorrow? Her name is Carolyn. She likes math and for sure wants to go to college. Sounds great, he says, but you have to drive me. She lives in Harbor View Hills. I don't know where that is. I'll look it up on the map. I go back in the house. Mommin, I yelled. I won't be here for lunch tomorrow. I'm going to a friend's house. Remember the one I mentioned? That's nice, she says. On the way over to Carolyn's the next day, my dad practices his English. This is what his accent sounds like. Good morning. Mes nis valyam. My name is Mosef Udestai from Iran. It is nice to meet you. I try to help him say Williams instead of Williams. I'll introduce myself as Mo, he says. Before I can tell him no, he asks, what about George? That's an easy name, and everyone has heard of George Washington. By then, we are almost at Carolyn's, and I'm getting worried. Just say your real name slowly and don't mention being from Iran. They already know that, and don't talk about the oil industry unless Mrs. Williams says, tell me about the oil industry. That will never happen. Harbor View Hills is very pretty. It's full of big trees, flowers, and real houses, not condos. I know this because a condo usually shares at least one wall with a neighbor. Thanks to the rules for condominium living binder, I now know a whole bunch of facts about a second useless, boring topic, condos. The oil industry being the first. Carolyn's front door has a wreath on it, decorated with real flowers and lemons. I have never seen lemons used as decoration, but it looks nice. I wonder if the Williamses will eat them at some point. It would be a waste not to. We ring the bell. I can tell my dad is practicing in his head. When Carolyn's mom opens the door, he says, hello, Mrs. Williams. Hello, I am Mohsen Yousafzai. Please call me Mo or George. Carolyn's mom pretends that my dad has just made perfect sense. I'm so happy to meet you, she says. Carolyn has told me many nice things about Cindy. My dad nods his head a few times, turning around and leaves. He doesn't even say goodbye to me. I think he's embarrassed. All that practice did not help. Next chapter, Bravo. Carolyn runs up to the door. Welcome, come in, let me show you around. You have a lovely house, Mrs. Williams, I say as Carolyn pulls me inside. Thank you, Sydney. I hope you have fun today. Carolyn's told me so much about you. This is our pool, Carolyn says, taking me outside. I hope you brought your bathing suit. Before I can tell her that I am wearing it under my clothes, ready to go, a big dog bounds up to us and starts licking me. I turn around so he can lick my face. This is Sam. Down, Sam, down. I don't know where our cat Elizabeth is. She's probably sleeping someplace. Come, I'll show you my room. Get down, Sam. As soon as we walk into her room, what do I see? A beanbag chair, and not just any beanbag chair, but an extra cool one covered with orange shag. She also has a parakeet named Tweety, plus all the Nat Treasure books the Boxcar Children's series, and the complete set of the Encyclopedia Britannica. How lucky is she? I love your room, I say, as I scan her bookshelf. Hey, you've read Black Beauty? It's one of my favorites. That copy was my mom's when she was our age. I'll show you her books later. But let's eat first, I'm starving. We go to the kitchen and sit down at the table underneath a huge sign that reads, if you can dream it, you can be it. We have a sign at our house too, by the front door. It says, please take off your shoes. We eat tuna sandwiches and chocolate chip cookies and chat about school. During lunch, Mrs. Williams calls Matt. Come and say hello to Carolyn's new friend. My brother's in high school and he's a straight-A student, Carolyn tells me. A tall, skinny boy shows up. Nice to meet you, he says, shaking my hand. Nice to meet you too. He reminds me of my favorite cousin in Iran. As he turns around to leave, Carolyn whispers, we can bug him later. After lunch, we play a game of Yahtzee, which Carolyn teaches me, and then we go into her room so she can change into her suit. I'm already wearing mine, so I take off my clothes and fold them neatly on her bed. As soon as Carolyn is ready, we run to the pool and jump in. Carolyn knows how to dive. She can also touch the button of the deep end with her hand, the bottom of the deep end with her hand. We spend 2 hours swimming, doing cannonballs and chatting about school and our teachers. It was a great day, but the best part was when Carolyn said that she told her mom about my perfect score on the math test at the beginning of 5th grade and that her mother had said bravo. It's my first bravo ever. I love this family. Yay. Next chapter. Zenith. I have English, social studies, and pre-algebra with Caroline, so I go to her house after school a couple times a week to do homework with her. We're taking a break, sitting in their family room in front of their huge 20-inch color Zenith TV, while Mrs. Williams irons a pile of shirts. My family has a black and white Zenith at home, but it's a 13-inch tabletop with an antenna, which was constantly having to get up and adjust. Sometimes we tape a wire hanger to the antenna, and somehow that makes the picture clearer. Color TV is so much better. My dad wants to buy one, but he says there's no point, since we can't take it back to Iran with us. The electricity current is different there. Whenever we go to Sears, we have to go to the TV section so my dad can see what the newest Zenith model that we can have looks like. He always likes to stand there and say the slogan from the commercial, Zenith, the quality goes in before the name goes on. A report about the protest in Iran starts, complete with full color footage of crowds in Tehran. During the commercial, Caroline turns to me and asks, what's the Shah like? I think for a minute about how to describe the Shah to the American. You don't have anyone like him in America. He's like someone in a fairy tale. He and his family live in a palace and have the fanciest and most expensive of everything, including jewelry, straight out of Aladdin's tales. Whoa, Carolyn exclaims, a little surprised. You never see the president and Mrs. Carter wearing crowns, but the Shah and his wife wear them, and they also have thrones, capes, swords, and belts, all covered with emeralds and diamonds and rubies. They don't do stuff with ordinary people, ever. I guess when you own a belt with a huge emerald instead of a buckle, you don't mingle with the baker or the plumber. I bet he's never talked to a taxi driver. Is that the main problem? Yes. But it's more than that. If you're friends with a Shah, you have all the advantages in the world: education, a high-paying job, a nice house. Even if you commit a crime, you don't get punished. Rules do not apply to the rich and well-connected. You are guaranteed a life of privilege. You don't have to try. A perfect comparison pops into my head. It's like those cars at Disneyland. They're on tracks, so you don't need to steer. Rich people are on a good track from birth. They can just sit back and enjoy the ride. Poor people are on a bad track, and they can't change anything, no matter how much they try to steer in a different direction. Their life is set just like those tracks. So that is a great analogy for privilege in America. people of lighter skin and the privilege they have. It's different here. Abraham Lincoln started out poor and then he became president, Caroline points out. Things like that don't happen in Iran. Sounds like classic corruption, Mrs. William chimes in. The President of the United States is an ordinary human being who wins an election. He does have a throne or a bejeweled sword, but that would be great for photos. She laughs at the idea. And people don't curtsy to him, I say. I don't even think Americans know how to curtsy, Carolyn adds, except at the ballet. And the Shah never retires. He rules until he dies. Our president serves for 8 years max, interjects Mrs. Williams. She walks over to the TV and turns it off. Get back to work, ladies. One more second, Mom. Carolyn turns to face me, cross-legged on the sofa. Your Shah almost sounds like some kind of god, she concludes. I guess. I've never really thought about it. He has always been there for as long as I've been alive. His picture is everywhere. If you go in a bank, there he is above the doorway. If you go to the hardware store, there is his picture above the cash register. If you open your textbook, there he is, right there, the first chapter. His face is like wallpaper. That would never happen here because the pictures would have to change after every election, Carolyn explains. Offering me the bowl of pretzels that was on the coffee table, I know. I take a handful of the salty snacks. I've already been here for 3 presidents. When I first came to Compton in 2nd grade, the president was Nixon. Then it switched to Ford. Then we went back to Iran, some old Shah. Then we came back to America for this assignment, and you have President Carter now. My dad says it's amazing how American presidents change without any fighting or wars. For my whole life, it has always been the Shah. When the Shah dies, it will be his oldest son. We don't get to vote on that. So if the Shah is so powerful and he doesn't allow free speech, why hasn't he stopped the demonstrations? Caroline asked, in between bites of pretzels. Good question. Whenever there were demonstrations before, the secret police, Savak, would take the protesters to jail and torture them. This always scared others away from protesting, but apparently it isn't working anymore. Protesters are actually getting killed, but people keep demonstrating. Wow, that's huge. She wipes crumbs off her shirt. The Shah likes to scare people. He buys the most modern weapons in the world from his military and shows them off during parades. My dad says, you don't see tanks and guns on parades in America because democracy keeps the country together, not fear of the military. Carolyn looks at me thoughtfully. Now that I think about, that's true. I've never seen a tank in the 4th of July parade, just marching bands, dogs wearing tutus, and people dressed like Uncle Sam. Once I even saw a dog just like Uncle Sam. I nod, relieved that she understands. You're lucky that people can do that kind of stuff in America, and no one ends up in jail. We each grab another handful of pretzels and get up from the sofa. Our homework will still await us in the dining room. All right, I think I'm going to stop there. It's so cool how every time we read this book, Ain't So Awful Falafel, we learn something about the Iranian culture. Today, the girls were talking about our political system and our government. So the government in Iran is much different than what we have here in America. We have a democracy, a constitution, which gives us rights and liberties. So you can say we are blessed to be Americans. And I am blessed to be reading this book with you. And even though my foot is in a lot of pain, I'm still here reading. That's how much I enjoy this time of day. All right, so thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. I will see you for reading class and for our morning meeting. I can't wait. Thank you so much for watching. Again, Tootles.